Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Before starting the video, please subscribe and keep watching for more details videos. What Serena Williams said about influencing Coco Gauff and Iga Swiatek during her final Canadian Open appearance in 2022. Serena Williams is, undeniably, the greatest female tennis player of all time. The countless trophies she won and the boundless legacy she left behind will leave traces in the sport centuries after her 2022 retirement. And rightly so, given all she achieved. As such, this current generation of superstars all looked to the American, idolizing her dominance and emphatic brand of tennis. Iga Swiatek and Coco Gauff are just two notable names who would attribute their love for the sport to Serena's brilliance. With the Canadian Open currently ongoing, it's therefore worth remembering how the 43-year-old reacted to being informed of her influence on this duo in what was her last ever appearance at the event. What Serena Williams said during her last ever Canadian Open in 2022. A three-time champion at the event, this was one of many Masters 1000 events that Serena Williams captured on multiple occasions. And in another time, she could have had many more, reaching a further 2 finals and 3 semifinals. As such, she was effusive in her praise for the event, stating back in 2022 after shocking many by announcing she would be playing, "I don't know. I just love it here. It's no secret that I've had a fabulous time on court and probably even better time off court here in Toronto. So it's a great city and I love being here. I used to visit here all the time, visit my friends, great memories." Then asked about Gauff and Swiatek specifically, branded a huge influence on their development, Williams continued, "It's great to have an impact, I think, in anyone's life. Because people had an impact in my life. And I know what it felt like to just want to be like that, and to be better. So it's a good feeling to just have other people feel that way about you. And just encourage them to be better. Because that's what it's all about, right? It's about making your mark, and then someone else does and does better, and that's kind of how it keeps going." Ironically enough, Swiatek was compared to Serena Williams after her Wimbledon title just last month. Who did Serena Williams beat to win her 3 Canadian Open titles? To highlight the incredible longevity of Williams, her very first title at the Canadian Open came back in 2001. Her final then came in 2013, before this final appearance at the event all the way in 2022. In total, she featured in 10 separate iterations of this event, often skipping it, but still succeeding in it whenever she featured. That maiden title came after she beat Jennifer Capriati, the top seed, in the final. Her next triumph came a whole 10 years later, overcoming Victoria Azarenka and Samantha Stosur in the semifinal and final respectively. Serena had to wait just 2 years for her third and final title in Canada, beating Serena in a hugely one-sided 6-2, 6-0 final. Serena stood courtside in Toronto, her final appearance at the Canadian Open. The city hummed with affection and nostalgia. 3-time champion here. But this time, she was not here to collect another trophy. Serena's tennis rackets rested quietly by her side. In her heart, she carried something far greater, legacy. She paused, looking out over the court and through time. Players like Coco Gauff and Iga Swiatek were no longer distant names. They had become the next chapters in a story she helped write. When asked about her impact on those 2 stars, Serena's voice took on something gentle, something luminous. "It's great to have an impact, I think, in anyone's life. Because people had an impact in my life. And I know what it felt like to just want to be like that, and to be better. And just encourage them to be better. Because that's what it's all about, right? It's about making your mark, and then someone else does and does better, and that's kind of how it keeps going." Talksport.com. +15. Tennis.net. +15. Reddit.com. +15. Her words carried the rhythm of wisdom, a mirror facing the future. Serena knew the magnetism of her own influence, from the courts of Compton to international courts, shining especially through Coco, who once stared at a Serena poster in her bedroom. That young girl had carried that image with her into matches, into a destiny that would see her reach Grand Slam finals and become a symbol of the very influence Serena described. In her final words at the event, Serena embodied both humility and pride. She recognized the intangible torch, heritage, grit, identity, aspiration that she had passed to a new generation. As a fan, I imagine her glimpsing onto the next phase of tennis in her mind's eye, Coco's fierce resolve, Iga's polished dominance, and the fire and form of all they represented. Serena's farewell in Toronto wasn't about endings. It was about transformation. She said she loved the city, on and off court, and in that moment, it felt like she was passing something personal to tennis's future inhabitants. The surface of the court glowed under the lights, and Serena Williams looked toward the horizon with quiet satisfaction, knowing that her mark would be made even more powerful by those who followed, and perhaps would surpass. In August 2022, Serena Williams returned to the Canadian Open, her final appearance at the event where she was a three-time champion, to bid Toronto a fond farewell. Having announced she'd be evolving away from tennis after that season's final Grand Slam, the emotional undercurrent of her farewell was unmistakable. Wikipedia. +15. Wikipedia. +15. The Times of India. +15. Gulf News. Standing courtside in Toronto, Serena spoke not just as a departing icon, but as a mentor in spirit. When asked about her influence on rising stars Coco Gauff and Iga Swiatek, her answer was simple and powerful. "It's great to have an impact. People had an impact in my life. I know what it felt like to just want to be like that. So just encourage them to be better. Because that's what it's all about. It's about making your mark, and then someone else does and does better." Tennis head. In that statement, Serena distilled her legacy not in trophies or records, but in the spark she passed on, the spark that inspires a next generation to chase greatness with even fiercer hunger. The legacy Serena passed on. Sparkles to Coco Gauff. Vision comes to life. From the moment she burst onto the Wimbledon stage in 2019, young Coco Gauff carried admiration for Serena in her heart. Walking in the footsteps of her idol, she often said she wanted to copy that, the competitiveness, serve, forehand, and aggression that defined Serena's game. Women's Tennis Association. Gauff didn't just mimic Serena's style, she internalized her mindset. After lifting her U.S. Open title in 2023, Coco reflected on how the Williams sisters paved her path, urging youth everywhere not to be limited by background, but inspired by possibility. Reddit. +15. Daily Express US. +15. Essentially Sports. +15. Serena's words in Toronto reaffirmed a role Coco had embraced, not just a beneficiary of legacy, but a living embodiment of it, someone Serena inspired and who is now inspiring others in turn. To Iga Swiatek. Quiet power and growth. Iga Swiatek's rise was less about emulation and more about evolution. Her dominance on clay and mental steel made comparisons to Serena inevitable, yet her style, measured, strategic, clay court excellence, was uniquely her own. Reddit. +4. Essentially Sports. +4. Essentially Sports. +4. Still, Serena recognized and celebrated that shared thread. Influence. Her presence inspired Iga not to replicate, but to tap into a similar aspiration, to elevate, innovate, and continue the sport's evolution from within. Tennis head. A creative reflection. The torch that becomes flame. Scene. Toronto, 2022, Center Court. The crowd quiets. Serena, carrying both grace and finality, addresses reporters. "I've loved playing here. On and off the court," she says. "And to think I may have helped Coco or Iga in some way, it's humbling." In that moment, she isn't speaking of statistics. She's speaking of connection, of energy passed down, of raw possibility grown into achievement. Coco, then age 18, watching from the stands, hears the echo of her own journey. When Serena described influence, Coco felt her own seed planted, now blooming in every fierce return, every leap for the ball. She felt Serena not just as idol, but as foundation. Iga, World number one and focused clay major champion, sees in Serena's words of validation. Influence is an imitation. It's inheritance of mentality, winning without apology, evolving without fear. The ripple beyond Toronto. Serena's words remind us that influence in sport is generational. The greatness of one era becomes the launch pad for another. She pointed to legacy not as a fixed monument, but as a living relay, where her mark allows someone else to do better. Coco and Iga, by 2025, both embrace that mantle differently, one passionate and unfiltered, the other cerebral and quietly dominant. Yet both carry the flames Serena ignited. Why this moment matters. Stylistically, Serena's statement was terse but profound. She avoided self-praise, instead framing her legacy in others' success. Literally, she spoke of making your mark and then someone else does better, turning comparison into inspiration. The Times of India. Tennis head. This moment gains emotional weight because it came at Serena's final Canadian Open, a farewell performance infused with awareness of her impact beyond wins. Toronto, which had witnessed her evolution from early dominance to graceful goodbye, was the ideal backdrop for her to honor those who follow. Closing thought. At less than 1,000 words, this reflection only hints at the enduring ripple of Serena's influence. In Toronto, her words carried the weight of decades on tour and sent a message to Gauff and Swiatek, and to all athletes, that influence is not a static trophy but a call to action. Build on what came before and soar higher. Serena didn't just win titles in Toronto, she passed on belief. In her own words, that's what it's all about, someone else does and is better, and that's kind of how it keeps going. Tennis head. This creative piece blends factual quotes and reflective narrative to explore what Serena Williams said and meant in her final Canadian Open appearance, about her influence on two prodigious talents and the enduring cycle of inspiration in tennis.